What's going on there, YouTube, and welcome to Fresh Comic Stories. Guys, this is the channel that we basically sit down and cover different kinds of comic book stories. Now, guys, today we are going to jump back over to Ultimate Marvel, and we're going to pick up with Ultimate X-Men, the Aftermath storyline. Now, the Aftermath storyline takes place right after the Ultimate X-Men Cable storyline, where Cable basically killed Charles Xavier. Now, the question is, though, what comes next with the X-Men? This storyline right here gives us what happens after the death of Charles Xavier. So guys, I do hope you enjoyed this video, and if you do, please leave me a like down below and also subscribe for more comic book videos in the near future. Also, any suggestions on books I should read, well, please let me know in the comments below, because you never know, your suggestion could be a future video down the road. But let's dive into Ultimate X-Men Aftermath. I do hope you enjoy. Now, this is a two-part story that will kind of set up everything to happen in the next few chapters, which we begin today's storyline with Bobby and Kitty Pryde, which this is the moment where we see Kitty Pryde leaving the X-Men, which honestly is huge for the character. This is her leaving this title and her moving on to Spider-Man title to be close with Spider-Man, which we are going to see some weird conflictions between the two titles. But this is the story giving us an idea of how bad things are now with the death of Charles Xavier in our last video. Now we jump over to Nick Fury, the president and also the general of the Army of America, where you have the storyline basically give us a conversation where they are wondering what is going to happen to the mutant community, because the general of the army believes that Charles Xavier was the only person keeping the mutants in check. That with him gone, it will basically begin an uprising from the mutant race, which could lead to a huge war between the humans and the mutants. And so right now, you have Nick Fury saying that none of that will happen because mainly more humans are supporting the mutant side now. Plus, he is trying to not reactivate the Sentinel program at all. Now we jump over to Wolverine, and right now outside just catching some air. But the biggest thing about this is that Sabretooth appears, which continues this huge mystery that Wolverine is the father of Sabretooth, since Cable, who was the future version of Wolverine, told Wolverine that Sabretooth is basically the son of Wolverine. But you have Sabretooth tell Wolverine that he needs to find his wife to get more proof about the idea of him being his son. Now, we do jump forward to the actual funeral of Charles Xavier, and this is kind of huge because you have almost every single character appear to say goodbye to Charles Xavier. You have the Ultimates, you have Fantastic Four, you have the Church of Shiar, you have Emma Frost and her students, you even have Spider-Man there as well. Every person so far that we have seen in the Ultimate Marvel universe on the good guy side is there right now, saying goodbye to Charles Xavier. And that's how huge this funeral really is. Now we pick up with Jean Grey checking up on Nightcrawler, which I mentioned this in our last video, how he has been locked up in the basement of the school because he went crazy attacking the X-Men and also kidnapping Dazzler because he was madly in love with her. But all of that took place in Ultimate X-Men Annual number 2. But with the death of Charles Xavier, it seems like he was finally able to escape his binds, because when Jean Grey goes down to check up on him, he is already gone missing. And it's kind of like, where in the world is Nightcrawler now? Now we also get a quick appearance of Magneto, because he is the last person to get any word of Charles Xavier's death. And so right now you have him getting word on the fact that his old enemy is dead now, which then he wants to celebrate the idea of finally being rid of Charles Xavier from his life. And now he can continue his ultimate goal. Now we jump forward a couple days and we see that Jean Grey, Cyclops, and Storm meeting up with a lawyer going over the will of Charles Xavier, which we come to find out that Charles Xavier left them everything for them three alone. All the money in the buildings will now go to them to basically manage. Now we pick up with three things happening each in one page. The first thing is Colossus leaving the X-Men. He will go to Emma Frost's school to live with his boyfriend, John Paul. And so just like Kitty Pryde, this is him being removed from the X-Men roster. Now, we also come to see Wolverine leaving the X-Men, mainly because he wants to find more clues about his wife. He needs some answers on Sabretooth. But also the fact that with Charles Xavier now gone, he feels like he does not have a purpose here anymore. Then, the final thing to happen is that Cyclops wants to give Jean Grey a gift, which Jean tells him no, because she knows it is an engagement ring. With everything that had happened so far, she tells Cyclops no, she's not ready to get married yet. Now we jump over to a new character being introduced for the first time, which is Ultimate Pyro. Now Pyro is almost like his main Marvel counterpart with his power based around fire, except in the main Marvel universe he cannot produce the flames, he can only manipulate the fires around him. And so if someone else does not give him some form of fire to use, he cannot manage it right. But in the Ultimate Marvel universe, well, he can produce the flames, which is completely different. But his problem is that he cannot control the flames he produced like his main Marvel counterpart. But we pick up with him causing a riot in the middle of the city because he believes that Charles Xavier was killed by humans. The world has no idea that Charles Xavier was killed by the mutant named Cable. And so Pyro is doing this because he and many others believe that it is time for the mutant race to begin their uprising and take over the world. But you have Nightcrawler appear and teleport him out of there, in which you have Nightcrawler tell Pyro that he is wrong on why Xavier had died. But then you have Pyro kind of give a brief history of his origin, where he tells Nightcrawler that he has been hiding out with the Morlocks, which then grabs the attention of Nightcrawler so he can learn more about these Morlock people. Now we jump back over to the school, where we pick up with Cyclops, Jean Grey, and Storm meeting up with Lilandra. Now remember, in this universe, Lilandra is not an alien who fell in love with Charles. Instead, she is a basic human who's part of a group called the Church of the Shiar, where they believe the Phoenix will bring a new beginning to the world. That basically is up to them to help the Phoenix bring in this new world. But the reason why they have this meeting is because the church was the ones who were financing the church. And so Cyclops is asking for them to keep giving money to the school, which Lilandra says yes, but under one condition, that her assistant, Gerald Levine, stays behind to make sure the school is running well. Now, no one knows that Gerald Levine is secretly working with the Hellfire Club, which were a group of people who were trying to use the Phoenix for evil. But the biggest moment of this storyline and where we are going to end this story is that Cyclops calls a meeting with the last few people of the X-Men, which this is him deciding what should happen to the school now since Charles Xavier is now dead, where he now says that he is going to disband the X-Men. There will be no more X-Men at all. Which at first everyone is shocked by this, but kind of agrees with him except Bishop. He is the only one who is truly upset with the fact that Cyclops is doing this. But you have Cyclops tell Bishop that if he wants an X-Men team, he has to go off and make his own team somewhere else. This is a school, will no longer be a school to training people to be soldiers. Instead, it is actually going to help people learn how to control their powers. Now we pick up with Cable in the future, which once again, this is the future version of Wolverine. But in this future, he lost his healing factor in his arm, where we don't know why. But you have Cable talk to a robot about what is happening in the past, where basically how the X-Men has been disbanded, and Bishop is trapped there in the past, and the fact that X-Men believe that Charles Xavier is dead, but know that Cable is not dead. But he tells us everything is going according to plan, where he then walks into another room where we see that Charles Xavier is alive and is being held in a container in stasis. And the question is, what is Cable planning to do with Charles Xavier? And guys, this is where we are going to end today's video. So please leave me a like down below and also subscribe for more comic book stories in the near future. Also, any suggestions on books I should read, well, please let me know in the comments below, because you never know, your suggestion could be a future video down the road. But guys, I will see you on the next comic book video. Later, guys.